Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, is the VP pick for the Kamala Harris presidential run. Now, I am obviously very excited about this because it just feels weird. It feels weird when you're like making not only predictions that come true, but also the Democratic Party is like listening to the things that you're saying.
Does it sound like he's actually excited?
It sounds to me like he's trying to take credit for a decision that somebody else made.
I just can't believe a grown man's wearing pearls.
Is that what that is?
He's also got like the cutesy librarian glasses.
I know he tries to pull that stuff. I honestly think there's just a lot of women who are his fans who just like thirst after him.
That's exactly what it is. That's most of his.
Yeah, that's his entire appeal.
Yeah, like, that's the whole Hassan shtick.
But yeah, I woke up, actual banger pick. Good news. I glazed up Tim Walz a little bit on my Instagram, posted one of my older videos on him and the Democratic Farmer Labor, whatever the party in Minnesota, which I think is a sick name for a party. They're not just.
What is even this chat? Like, I'm looking at this. This doesn't feel like a real chat. Like, it almost feels like a bot. Like 90% of it is just emotes.
Have you been on Twitch? This is just every chat. Most people don't have really anything to contribute to the conversation, so they just spam the emojis.
Like the Democratic Party, they got labor in the name, they got farmer in the name. You already know what it is. Posted another sick photo with this man. I'm glazing him a little bit too hard. I know I'm glazing him a little bit too hard. I know this man.
Is this a sick photo?
No,
it just looks like a random grandfather.
No, because I guarantee if this guy was a rightoid, he'd be saying this was like a disgust. He's probably gonna like murder that pig, and this is disgusting.
By the way, I saw all these people online posting about how like Tim Walz is our dad if he wasn't brainwashed by Fox News. Like I saw that from like multiple different people. I mean, it seems a little bit like a DNC talking point, but two, doesn't that just show you how like mentally damaged a lot of women are in this country? They're like, oh man, I wish Tim Walz were my dad. He's like my dad if he didn't watch Fox News. Like, oh man, every one of their
because a lot of them didn't have a dad, so they'll take any dad over not having a dad.
They've been so radicalized by politics that they just cut family members out of their lives. Like their dad is just like a normal guy, a normal boomer who like watches Fox News, and like they come in saying some dumb stuff about like DEI or whatever, and he's like, I don't agree with that. That's socialism, and they like freak out on him. I think it's mostly a them problem.
No, I mean I doubt it's even like DEI stuff. It's more probably like, I can't wait for my darling Sarah to come home from college, and then Sarah walks in the door. She's like, all right, Dad. My name is Trevor now, and I'm a man. And he's like, I knew I shouldn't have sent you away off to the big city.
He just screams at them about they, them pronouns. It's like, what are you doing? What happened to you?
More likely she goes to college, she graduates, and then she just never goes home again. And they never see her again. She just disappears.
Oh, she's going no contact?
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't even know what happened. He's like trying to call her. It's just going straight to voicemail. He doesn't know what's wrong.
Well, when they teach people, you go to college and they have these, they put insert into classes like, this is what racism is and this is what sexism is and all this kind of stuff. The whole idea is to brainwash you to hate your parents.
Their sick photo with this man. I'm glazing him a little bit too hard. I know I'm glazing him a little bit too hard. I know it's just like, if your boss looks like this, you don't need to worry about AI taking your job. He's a football coach who ice fishes and protects women's rights to choose and trans people too. Like he's solid as hell. He's so solid it freaks me out. Like it just like freaks me out that the Democrats actually went with the smart choice and not like the scared pick. They're pulling the socialists as a house on Walz too. Oh hell yeah, dude. Oh hell yeah. They got nothing. They got nothing. First of all, he's not a socialist, bro. Shut the up. He's the governor of Minnesota. Like you can't say stuff like that. These guys are so brain broken.
Yeah, it's funny that your average leftist can't recognize difference between a house and a mansion.
He's also like not. This isn't really the smart choice at all. Like Josh Shapiro, even though he would have hurt the Gaza voter, he would have like injured the Palestinian vote. Like, he probably was the better choice. And I bet he also just didn't want to attach his own name to this sinking ship that is the Kamala Harris campaign. They chose Waltz because he's kind of uncontroversial. Like, he doesn't really add anything, but then he also doesn't really take anything away either. So that's why they went with him. Like, he really is not memorable and has very low like brand ID. Like, people don't know who this guy is really.
Shapiro probably has more than a few skeletons in his closet, and he
Yeah.
probably didn't want that getting out.
I'll corroborate the brand ID thing because I have no idea who this guy is. So.
Yeah.
Never.
He's like, I haven't heard him. What do you think of him?
What, just from what I've seen? I don't know. He just seems like a normal dude who's probably just very depressed. He supports abortion and trans rights. It's like, yeah, probably because his kids hate him, and he's doing this because he thinks he might win them back or something.
So it looks like Joe Biden you have at home.
Oh my God, everything is falling in line, dude. All the cards are in place. Virtually every single thing. That's how you know they're failing big time. If you want to know, the Democrats are doing so well because the Republican messaging on this front have been so bad. It's so bad. They're talking about how he like taught in China for a year and knows how to speak Mandarin. It's like they're gonna be calling him a Chinese spy. They're gonna say he's the Manchurian candidate, and you know they're really just gonna push away what remains of like the rest of the normal people living in the fucking Rust Belt. It's great. Everything so far has been going according to plan.
Here's the next talking point that they're going with. He's gonna appeal to people in the Rust Belt. He's gonna appeal to the white working class. He is so super relatable. Again, no, he's not. They said this about Biden and it wasn't true. Like, he's not some sort of populist candidate that your average otherwise Republican voter who was like formerly a Blue Dog Dem who voted Trump in 2016 and 2020 is now, oh man, they're on fire for Walls now. Complete cope, complete lie.
Because they're going to look at Kamala Harris and just say no.
But not only that, like, he doesn't have that appeal. Like, he was known as the governor of Minnesota as being this guy who literally supported BLM after it was out of vogue to do that. Like, he is seen as far left in a lot of ways. And the other thing too is that this whole posturing by Hassan right now is they're not actually trying to convince us that Kamala and Walz can win. They're trying to convince each other because there are a lot of Democrats who don't want her to be the candidate. Like, she is literally so unpopular, she's shrill, no one likes her. This is why you're seeing these obviously fake, ridiculous polls showing her in front of Trump. Like, they're ridiculously like oversampling Democrats. There's this Marquette poll that like oversampled like Democrats by like 23% or something crazy.
Yeah.
Right? They're trying to get their own people to sort of circle the wagons and fall in line behind a candidate who is literally like a worse version of Hillary Clinton.
You know what I mean? Democrats should get excited at the fact that they've accidentally lucked into like a good situation. They just like they man, what a turnaround. I know. In what appears to be just a month-long sequence of W's from the Democratic Party, just doing basic competence, doing basic decency and competence, and not like objectively trying to gaslight the entirety of the country on that they can literally physically visibly see. Instead of doing that, they were like, hey, how about we act like a party that wants to win an election? What if we were to say, hey, this guy that was at the top of the ticket, this current Democratic leader, is too old. Everyone can kind of see it. Maybe we should swap him out for a younger, more vibrant, more dynamic candidate that isn't like dying. And there was resistance to it. And yet Nancy Pelosi pulled through. Nancy Pelosi this month, the entire month. Nancy Pelosi, you have officially reached GOAT status in my eyes. Nancy Pelosi unlocked Ultra Instinct in the same way that LeBron does when they like when like a green player disrespects him. You know what I mean? Like tries to dunk on him or something, and then LeBron goes on a 30-point tear. Like that's literally Nancy Pelosi this past month. It happens sometimes where like somebody will try to like dunk on LeBron or something, and then he gets like really pissed off. She was like, what are we doing here? Yeah, this is the moment. This is something that it's so funny that Waltz is the pick because progressives, even leftists, have been
Well, hold on,
writing
hold on,
for
hold on, whoa, whoa,
the
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Minnesota.
Like, let's look at this meme real quick. When your governor ensures you won't go hungry, when your governor legalizes child slavery, like, man,
Yeah, I'm
this
sorry.
is.
Where is child slavery legal exactly?
I know, right? Like, who made this meme? What lunatic like mocked this up? This is crazy. Yeah, I guess it's the in Arkansas apparently child slavery is legal.
Apparently,
Just
yeah.
just beating kids. Work harder.
The trouble
Let me
is, it's so. I mean, you would look at something like this, or what he was saying about, especially earlier about gaslighting. It's like the Biden administration has been a 4 year long gaslight, and the point is that it's so pervasive. It's almost like you can't say anything about it anymore because it just happens every single day for 4 years, and it's
Yeah.
like there's nothing to even argue about anymore. It's just exhausting, and it's like then
Yeah.
you see memes like this. It's like, you know, the thing is that the person who that meme is aimed at is going to look at it and say, "Oh yeah, I guess those people are awful. They have child slavery." They're not even going to think for a second about whether or not it makes sense, and that's
Yeah.
the sad part.
I've noticed really with this whole just seeing the stuff coming out of the left lately, like how cloistered they are in their like information silos online. Like just with the whole like believing that JD Vance actually put his wang in a couch or people accusing him of wearing mascara. Like they're just making stuff up. They don't have actual criticisms of substance. And it's really like it all of this just reeks of desperation, honestly. It feels like they have nothing. They know that like people, and Kamala is such an easy candidate to attack. We're trying to repackage her as this new, like, oh man, Kamala's on the scene now. All the hot young teens love, all the hot young
God,
progressives are on board. Like, she has like, it's going to be so easy to just staple the past 4 years to her. Like, this woman was lying to our faces that the president of this country wasn't senile and incapable of running again. Like, man,
she's a
it's just,
Nickelodeon candidate. That's what I think.
yeah.
Nickelodeon Kids Choice candidate. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And you know how young people are. I always find that to be like a desperate strategy with the whole like we're gonna go for the young person vote because young people again are notoriously unlikely to turn out. So I always find that to be like a sign of weakness. But anyway, let's keep saying what this dork Hassan has to say.
To Democrats for quite some time. Like I myself have offered some coverage on that like way back in the day. As soon as there was a one-person majority, like one seat majority in Minnesota, they went to town. They went nutty with it. They were like, oh yeah, no more hungry children actually. Sorry, sucks to suck. Yeah, we're gonna do paid family leave. We're gonna do all these things like no more captive meetings that are obviously anti-labor. Like all this stuff, they just went boom, 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 boom. They put those numbers on the board. They went crazy with it. And honestly, it was great. This is why like Waltz, for a lot of people, Waltz might be out of nowhere. They're like, who the fuck is this guy? He just seems like an old man. Ironically enough, he's like around the same age as Kamala Harris, even though he looks much, much older. Who's this like folksy guy? No, he's been doing the thing. I've said it before. I've talked about how like this is exactly like the Minnesota Democratic Party is like exactly what the Democratic Party is supposed to be like, is exactly supposed to operate like this. And they're doing it. And the Republicans literally don't know. They don't know what to do. They have no way of dealing with this. They just have no way of dealing with it. They don't know. The Republicans are in panic mode, okay? He's a football coach. He was a teacher. He was a veteran. He literally sat on
Okay, hold on,
a bunch of committees, including, I think, like...
That whole veteran thing, like, he left right before his platoon was being deployed back to Iraq, if I remember correctly. Like, he's been called out pretty strongly for that.
Well, aside from that, I think it's a mistake to automatically attribute a conservative right-wing mindset to somebody just because they're a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most hardcore leftist progressive people I know did 23 years in the U.S. Army. So,
Yeah. Were they like a paper pusher?
No,
What do they do?
commo communications,
Okay.
a radio guy. But yeah, I mean, they were in for a long career. They're fully, fully on board with the army. They're, patriotic normally, at least. They have the flag on and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, but they're also completely dyed-in-the-wool liberal progressive.
And it's really no longer, at least if you look at their voting patterns, it's no longer clearly a right-wing institution. And I think this is because it's just become so bureaucratized, and there are all these jobs that like don't involve any sort of combat or conflict or direct confrontation with enemies. It's just all these sort of like, I think you said they were in communications. I would guess that's one of the sort of like, they basically had some sort of managerial job, if you know what I mean.
After a while, yeah, but he was a just an R2O.
Walls also doesn't look like someone who's really like a. I don't look to him and think like, yeah, man, this guy's like done his time in the sandbox. He looks like a real tough guy. He just doesn't have that sort of. There's that weird. I saw this going around on Twitter. It was like him comparing him to like Brad Pitt and pointing out that like Brad Pitt is older than he is, and yet he like actually looks like an old man, but Brad Pitt's look. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't seem like he has that kind of fire behind him that they're kind of attempting to gaslight us into thinking that he does. What do you think about that?
No, he doesn't. That's just yeah. He looks like your average grandpa.
The Veteran Affairs Committee, and also on top of that, even all the way back in like 2007, I believe, like he literally was way back in the day. He was already like anti-Iraq war as well. He's got interesting takes, progressive favor with mainstream views on Israel, Iran. Yeah, like he's definitely gonna be a hawk. He's definitely gonna be a hawk on like Iran and Israel and like that, which is obvious. Like don't be crazy. But he's had like some unique take.
So if you're going to call him out and praise him for being anti-Iraq war, but then you're going to turn around and praise him for being pro-war with Iran. Okay. So he didn't even notice what he just said there, Hasan. Like, yeah, he's anti-war. Isn't that great? Oh, look how pro-war he is. Isn't that great? It's like, dude, fuck off.
But
I think he's about to sell this as like he's not that great, but like, well, he's still good on these other policies. Like, no, I think this is a sign that like if anyone needed any sort of sign that Hasan was a complete sellout, this is it. This Turkish Muslim who is the nephew of Cenk Uygur. Cenk couldn't have a more Turkish name than Cenk of the Young Turks. And he is now supporting this guy who is literally anti-Palestine. He's justifying it. This is Hasan's role. This is Hasan's role. He takes these far lefties, he spoon feeds them these DNC approved talking points to get them to toe the line and rally and vote Dem come November. There's absolutely no way that any person who is legitimately concerned about Gaza could support Tim Walz. And here he's going to defend Tim Walz. Like, you just know this guy's a Fed shill.
Yeah, he's a propagandist.
What?
He's a propagandist. His job is to portray the propaganda. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. Just listen to it and accept it. Come on, people. We're all in this together, right? Yay.
Propagandist is like too much for him. He's just an actor. He's the pretty face they put on for the weather.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is why he would champion him being against Iran is a good thing. Like, isn't Iran for the Palestinians? Like against Israel?
In terms of he's had some unique and very interesting takes in terms of like escalating against Syria and like that. He's an interesting guy. Like, I think that overall he is a really solid pick. I asked this question to Sam Cedars and got jumped on. My question is, what is
you were right. I was wrong. Did he just actually sell that as a good thing? He literally did.
And like that,
Man,
he's an interesting guy. Like, I think that overall he is a really solid pick.
Whoa. I thought he was going to be like, oh, well, he's not good on these issues, but, overall, still. No, you guys were right. He's like literally saying these are good things now. He's totally sold out. Holy crap. He went from like the last kind of like Russia's, never going to invade, the West is a lie, third worldist, actually kind of consistent Marxist streamer to this. He has fallen so far.
No,
This is ridiculous.
He's exactly where he started.
Yep.
Like he's reading the talking points he was given. Like there is.
Asked this question to Sam Cedars and got jumped on. My question is, what has changed? Why is everyone so hyped about Waltz? How would this address our foreign policy concerns? You will get jumped on because this is a moment where like people are finally tuning back into politics, and a lot of people are just straight up, straight ticket liberals in general, and they don't personally give a single about American foreign policy. That is by design, mind you. The American foreign policy is brutal, it's ruthless, it's bloodthirsty, it's maniacal, and that is precisely the reason why it is not in the forefront of American minds ever. As far as foreign policy goes, do I think Walz is going to be like all that different from the average Democrat? Probably not. But as it stands, I was a big time Bernie advocate, as you guys know, and I literally also said the same about Bernie in terms of foreign policy. And I said this time and time again, Bernie Sanders had like a bunch of differences, a bunch of moments where he differentiated from the average Democrat, especially on Israel. But like ultimately, it's not like he's going to be he was ever going to be like the true anti-war vanguardist leader that you think he was going to be. He was not. You have to grade on a curve. You have to manage your expectations. You don't have to care about American elections, but if you do care about American elections, you have to understand that there's obviously like American elections are going to be spoken about within the confines of America. And Americans are very selfish. They don't really give a shit about our foreign policy. It is not something that moves the needle. Having said that, in terms of Israel, it does move the needle a little bit in key districts, in key states like Michigan, for example. But yeah, Waltz has a really interesting background on foreign policy from his time living in China, where he was a teacher in China, and also has talked about not having an adversarial relationship with China, which is like genuinely weird to hear from a Democrat. So there is definitely some good there. Okay, he speaks a little bit of Mandarin. He was anti-interventionist in Syria. He has been at times anti-interventionist. He's been at times a party loyalist that voted along the party lines. So that is important to understand, though. That is important to put within the context of like the rest of the Democratic Party. In terms of his stuff with respect to Muslim populations, he has a big Somali constituency in his state. He has actively defended them on the record time and time again. That's why they're attacking him and saying he's
there's
like
some sort of like
care.
meme going around about this like new flag, or it was like a flag proposal of Minnesota that like kind of included the flag of Somalia or something like that. And people are making
so many of them. Yeah.
What was that?
They took in so many of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it was after the big Somali mix-up in 1993, and they brought him over here by like hundreds of thousands, I think, brought him over here as refugees. And I think about like 80% of them ended up settling in Minnesota. Yeah. So they have a huge Somali population in Minnesota.
We have some in the north here. We have some here in the Northeast in Maine too.
Oh yeah, Portland, Maine has a chunk of them too, a few thousand.
Yeah, also Lewiston as well. Like man, what a man. Words I can't say in a YouTube video.
I know.
Thinking about those right now. Anyway, let's keep going.
To be aggressive in being like anti-Israel or anything like that, make no mistake. But having said that, we'll see. I am not going to make any predictions on that front. Do I suspect him of being like above and beyond on the issue of Israel? Who knows? Probably not. He is just like every other Democrat on that issue.
He's the chairman of the Democratic Governors Association. I can tell you his fellow Democratic governors love him, love him. They think he's smart. They think he builds consensus. They think he's really funny. And so they like being in his company. And that matters in a campaign. In terms of Harris being out, are you confident that do you have the loyalty and do you trust your partner out there on the campaign trail? Does that person at tense moments, and there will be a lot of tense moments in the next 90 days of this campaign, make you laugh and make you smile and maybe take some of the pressure off you? Can you do the small market television? Walz fits that bill. Now,
yes, Walz can do retail much better than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris still has that like elitist California stink on her a little bit when she's running around. She plays well to younger voters for sure, but like ultimately you put this man in the Rust Belt.
She plays well to the younger voters. Does she play well to the younger voters, or are those forced memes created by the MSM?
No, that's what they think she does, because she has that that attitude about her, like, oh, aren't I so hip and cool? They think that, oh, kids will just eat this up, won't they? But they don't actually know their kids because they don't talk to them ever.
Yeah. They think that everyone's ready for brat summer.
Oh yeah, whatever that is. But yeah. But as far as this governor guy, I'll bet you if you take a very close look at his media appearances and stuff like that, you would probably see him start to argue with Communist Party talking points from China. Most of the time, people go to China, they do business in China, and they see how China really is, and they come back with a profound disrespect for the Communist Party and the way things are run over there. So for somebody to actually go over there and come back and say, no, actually, China's really great and we should be friends with them. Most of the time, they're either paid off by the Communist Party or they've been carefully groomed through their experience to be sympathetic to the Communist Party.
I mean, that's not
Interesting.
uncommon. Before like World War II, like all the journalists that came into the Soviet Union were carefully selected and carefully toured around the country, so that like they never saw anything outside of like Moscow and St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
Even if he did come like organically into China, like if he only stayed in like Shanghai, he wouldn't likely have seen a lot of it, especially if he stayed like in the richer districts.
Yeah, if he was just there to do business, he would have stayed in the business districts.
Yeah.
Because they restrict travel in China too. Like you can't just go drive around wherever the hell you feel like it. It's quite different over there. But I would bet, like if you just watch, probably in his, it probably wouldn't be too apparent. But if you actually look at any policies that he puts forward, if he becomes VP, just kind of do a quick read through and see if any of them align with Chinese Communist talking points. I bet you'd see a few overlaps.
You think he's basically bought and paid for then by the CCP?
Maybe not bought and paid for, but he's been groomed, I think.
Okay.
Because I don't know, I know a lot of people who've been to China. They go to China, they do business there, or because they have a job that takes them there, they come back and they say, yeah, China is actually kind of weird and strange and kind of awful. I've never seen anybody who just comes back and says, yeah, actually they're really great and we should just be friends with them. I mean, that kind of ticked my suspicion meter right away.
Fundamentally,
He's
the
gonna
leftists-
thrive. That's where he's from.
My bad, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I mean the
no, go
the
ahead.
leftists fundamentally do love the foreigner more than their own people. It's like he doesn't need to be paid off with that much to like go along with China.
That's what he does. That's his. He's a god teacher from Minnesota. He's got like a lovable older coach energy because that is what he is. He's got a decent amount of time in the legislative body. He has performed and outperformed the Democratic Party routinely as the governor. He's a popular governor. He's done a lot. His legislative accomplishments in 2023 onward is pretty solid as well. He is 100p a phenomenal pick, a great pick. Okay, top of the leaderboard pick. Absolutely stoked for this. The Democrats have obviously set us up for low expectations time and time again. Up until the last moment, I straight up thought that they would still go with Shapiro, because Shapiro was the scared pick. Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, was the scared pick. Okay, that was the pick you do when you're not confident in your abilities of running and winning PA on your own. And honestly, I genuinely thought like it's still gonna be a bad pick. It's still gonna be a bad pick. It's not gonna be a good pick. Ultimately, they went with the good pick. I do think that they are responding positively to what they are hearing and what they are seeing from the progressive wing of the base of support in the Democratic Party. I do think that. Now, obviously, this presents an opportunity. Keep pushing on this front, specifically on Israel. Okay, Waltz is the one that sent the National Guard in during the George Floyd protest and has been making it harder to persecute cops and implements reforms in Minneapolis. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting take because it's a big column A, column B on that front as well, because he does have some weaknesses. You just mentioned two solid ones, but he's also the same guy that, if I'm not mistaken, allowed the Keith Harrison prosecution to occur. Keith Ellison, not Harrison, sorry. He's the one who at least didn't get in the way of Keith Ellison, not Harrison. I apologize. I think that in and of itself is like pretty solid. Yeah, he also lamented on his abject failure of riot response. Summer, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz confronted criticism after a third night of destructive protests in response to George Floyd's death in police custody. National Guard officer said the mission lacked clarity. Like I said, he's an interesting guy even on this front as well. But of course, no politician is perfect, and Waltz is not perfect either. Power doesn't come from above; it comes from below. Waltz and Harris will be easier to organize under than Trump, but of course, they're still going to send in cops to beat the shit out of us anyway. Yes, exactly. Fun fact: Tim Waltz is on the only person on either ticket that doesn't wear makeup. He's also the only person, aside from Donald Trump, since the Carter administration that doesn't have a law degree. I'm pretty sure. Of some sort, or is it like a VP that hasn't had that, which is pretty wild. I mean, the motherfucker's a teacher, bro. He's a teacher. What are we talking about? That's it. He's a teacher. He's a football coach. He was in the army. He's pretty solid. I don't really give a shit about like him being a veteran. I do care a lot more about him being a teacher. Just like with Ketanji Brown Jackson, I care that she was a public defender.
Public school teachers are terrible.
Yeah.
Like public school teachers are awful. I'm just gonna say that.
They are the front line of the progressive movement in the United States. Is the public school system.
True.
Yeah.
Look, just straight up. So him hammering on and on about he's a teacher. It's like, yes, he's literally part of the problem. He's the one developing the problem. The problem is that the profession of teacher still holds a certain amount of prestige. And what that means, they're going to turn around and say, he's a teacher. What's wrong with him? He's a teacher. They're hammering that line specifically because the whole idea is, well, he's a teacher. How bad can he be? You know, it's a respectable profession still.
Have you noticed this? Like, it seems like people who really love their teachers in high school all end up being leftists, and people who either don't care or dislike their teachers in high school end up being right wing. Is
Depends what
that
teachers
true?
you have. I had some really good conservative teachers in my schools. I liked all of them. I didn't like the progressives. I mean, you could tell them apart because we still had some conservatives and some progressives in school when I went through. So you knew who was okay and who wasn't. But now it's like 100% progressive. So kids go to school and they have no idea why. Like, you know, they hate their teachers, and most of the time they don't understand why. It's because your teachers hate you and want to brainwash you.
I remember all my male teachers very fondly. I think they were all like based.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, you're Serbian. Don't even.
Yeah.
Different high school experience, okay?
What, Serbians are based by default? Come on.
Yes,
Yes.
they are. Yes, they are.
There we go.
The Overton window is so far right there.
Are very important things. Life experience, especially in more formative years, that truly changes the way you view the world. If you're not a like out of touch, rich weirdo like half of the Republican Party, for example, that's cool. That's a good thing. That means that you are going
Out of touch, rich weirdo is you, Mr. Hassan. You are the out of touch, rich weirdo.
Projection.
Oh, such projection there. That was and really people haven't woken up to the fact that the Democratic Party is like better funded, has more of big business behind it than the Republican Party does. This is like such a lot.
They have all of Wall Street behind them. They have almost all of it. It's unbelievable, the disconnect. The average Democrat person like on the street has no clue how much money and big corporate interest is in the party. They have no idea because it's been hidden so well.
They're better funded. They have more activists. They have more people working for them. Like this whole stereotype of Republicans being these old, rich white people with all this influence comes from basically the silent generation, and they are dying off now. Like they're not even like they're sadly not that electorally relevant anymore. Like it's just a complete lie, and they still it's people unfortunately haven't been able to catch up with this.
Yeah, it's mostly middle class now. That's why there's a war on the middle class. They're trying to destroy it because people in the middle class actually, you know, they get to the middle class by having successful families and working good jobs and you know, then raising their kids to inherit their land or house or whatever and be prosperous. And they want to destroy that because being prosperous and independent is a natural path to conservatism.
Exactly.
We're gonna see a shift in this big corporations supporting like the left wing, because you're gonna see like all the corporations that support the left wing and their initiatives, they're just gonna die out. like everything, the HR departments, the diversity hires, that all just bogs business down.
It may
So we're
happen
gonna see it.
eventually, but it's going to do a lot
Yeah.
of damage before it does.
Yeah, the
Oh, it's
system has to get
definitely.
to like literally South Africa levels before that happens.
Hmm.
Like this is something that gets literally run in the like this is basically what happens when like you I remember I was watching this video and it was of this one of those transgenders that lives of TikTok will show, and it's this person who's like literally a non-binary Muslim or something. This absolute lunatic, and this is like literally, like this person is like the individual that the system wants to turn your average voter into, if you know what I mean, to
Oh, yeah.
consolidate their power. And
Yeah.
this entire person's life is just them, their parents, their family, whoever raised them, failed them and never told them no. And basically, like we have chosen the wrong path as a country. Our elites have chosen the wrong path, and they're going to basically run things into the ground until they are finally told no cosmically, and the system collapses in on itself, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
And that is the only time people will ever like there's not this sort of like, oh man, this is gonna burn itself out. Like this is a feature of our system. Like it's literally like a here's the problem with democracy. Selfish individuals employ democratic forms of parliamentarianism to make the state an executive organ of their own business interests. That is by paying for elections and newspapers and controlling the opinions of voters and readers. Thus, democracy is generally an unholy alliance of urban masses, cosmopolitan intellectuals, and finance capitalists. The masses themselves are manipulated by the latter two elements through their specific agencies, the press, and the major political parties. The intelligentsia represent abstract intelligence, not spiritual enlightenment, while the finance capitalists are supported by mobile fortunes distinct from the landed property of the true nobility. And this is why this is going to have to continue for so long, because these people are kind of aware, the people who are actually in charge are kind of aware when things are getting too hot. They know when to kind of reel it back in, and they know when to push it all forward, if you know what I mean. Like they know,
Oh, yeah.
all right, like, go ahead.
The French Revolution, I think, was the last time there was ever a serious threat to the establishment power. And they learned from that experience, like, oh, the people can only get so unhappy before they finally throw you under the guillotine. So the whole thing of modern civilization has been, let's keep people just happy enough that they won't get really mad at you.
Just getting drip fed.
Yeah, just bread and circuses, and hopefully everything works out. And otherwise, we'll just take all their money and retire to our private island.
You are going to be the kind of guy that legitimately would advocate for certain positions because you have lived experience on those positions.
Sometimes life is as much about the lessons you learn as the lessons you teach. When I grew up, community was a way of life. My high school class was 24 people. I was related to half of them. I learned to be generous towards my neighbors, compromise without compromising my values, and work for the common good. I coached football and taught social studies for 20 years. And I tried to teach my students what small-town Nebraska taught me: respect, compromise, service to country. And so when I went into government, that's what I carried with me. I worked with Republicans to
That's the thing, like, he also is, like, pretty popular in Congress, too. Like, people love him.
pass an infrastructure bill, cut taxes for working families, signed paid leave into law. I codified abortion rights after Roe got overturned. Because I go to work for the common good. We believe in the promise of America, in those values I learned in Nebraska, and we're ready to fight for them. Because as Kamala Harris says, when we fight, we win.
We're going to get to the way that the weirdo Republicans are reacting to this. I mean, here, John Podhoretz treats Bowie
Hold on,
himself.
hold on.
Appointing
He's
Tim
still,
Walz.
they're still like resurrecting this. Like this is also how you know they're trying to unite their own party rather than actually present a real front is because he's resurrecting the weird meme again. Like it's literally like this is how they're trying to rally their own people by saying, "Oh, look at these two candidates. Republicans are so afraid of them," even though that's totally not the case.
Yeah.
This is all a gigantic bluff.
You can move that to the chair.
You would think that like with their party claiming to stand for all the like LGBTQ people, they would refrain from kind of using the insults that you would hear from like a middle school boss bitch, basically.
Well, they use
Like
middle school insults because they have a middle
Yeah.
school mentality.
Yeah.
They never grew up.
Here.
No,
I
it's-
agree. I think these people are like mentally children, basically.
Right. They are mentally children. They're just the people who wanted to be the bullies in school, but just never could be.
I mean, you see a lot of the conversations that are happening. It's like it always goes back to like they're just projecting the fact that there are failures in high school onto everyone else. You know, like that's what the whole weird thing is. Like these people were definitely bullied in school, and now they have to accuse their opposition of actually being, they were the cool normal kids or something, and then these Republicans were weirdos. Weird. They were so strange. They were freaks. Like, no, bro, this is normal. You guys
Yeah.
are the ones who are mentally ill.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to make fun of the weird people. That's bullying, and bullying is bad. We have to ban bullying. Don't you remember?
Oh, I completely forgot.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
There's just like so many contradictions in this too. This like reeks of desperation. Like
Yeah.
I'll say, and I'll say this about any election because again, Republicans are the underfunded party. The specter of the fact that these guys have the entire MSM, the intelligence agencies, and inordinate amounts of money on their side is always going to be worrying. They are the system, so that's threatening. But really, it's like this still reeks of desperation. Like I've seen Trump signs all over the state. I haven't seen a single Kamala sign. I didn't even know what the aesthetic of a Kamala sign looks like. I don't even know what red, white, what the order of red, white, and blue, on the sign looks like, or what the font is specifically, how it's arranged. I haven't seen that once in my entire state. This is
Yeah,
so inorganic.
The only difference I've noticed is that all of the Biden signs have disappeared. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because he's not running now. So
Well, yeah.
Biden
but
signs have disappeared.
There's
No one
no
likes
Kamala signs anywhere. There's just no Biden signs. So the only signs that are left are Trump signs.
Yeah.
And occasionally a rainbow flag on the weirdos' houses, but
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just hoping you forget who's on the ticket and check the blue.
Yeah, that's basically what's happened. Like I think they said she's dodged interviews for 18 straight days. That's because she's terrible. She's so unpersonable. No one likes her. Her laugh is annoying. She's not relatable. She's just this weird, like fake, so obviously fake personality that interviewing her, it's literally better for Democrats. This is how bad this candidate is. It's literally better for Democrats to just not interview her at all than to engage with her. That's how desperate they are.
To run the Federal Communications Commission. And that's not like a random guy who's extremely online. That is the editor of Commentary Magazine, okay? This guy is supposed to be like a representative of the normal Republican side. They are actively bludgeoning themselves in the head. Chaya Raichik running with the Libs of TikTok account owner, Chaya Raichik, running with #TamponTim. You might be wondering why #TamponTim? Because they made a push at Capitol to fund menstrual products for students in Minnesota public schools, saying that pads and tampons are as essential as toilet paper and soap in school bathrooms. That's why they're calling him Tampon Tim. Bro, you're so stupid. Like, what are you saying? Like, what's wrong with you? How could this be seen as a bad thing? What's next, dude? Are you gonna yell at him for feeding children? Is that what we're doing? Yeah. Oh man, stupid Tim Walz. He wants to feed our children with free breakfast and lunch, dude. What a animal. Team Trump is already out with a brutal ad against Kamala Harris.
how bad are things in Minnesota that families cannot feed their children breakfast or buy them tampons to use? I mean, how bad is it?
Good question.
I know, right?
I mean, how long have they been under Democrat rule?
Well, yeah, I mean, I know it's severely depressed and the economy is pretty horrible, but it's like, has it gotten that bad that you need to give your kids free school lunch because they can't afford $1.20 to buy a school lunch? I mean, I just don't get it.
These also don't feel like super strong issues either. Like they feel
Yeah,
like
no.
something that maybe you would win on in like a local election if you're a Democrat running in like a sort of purplish state.
Oh, sure.
But like it doesn't feel like oh man, like, oh wow, free school lunches, man, that's gonna win over the entire US. Like people kind of, like, I get that that's important, you know, and it has its place, but like people, that's probably not even in the top 10 of things that Americans are concerned about right now.
Yeah,
That's just
maybe in 20 years when nobody can afford to buy groceries, then free school lunch will be a national issue.
yeah, right. Because it's so easy to just staple like Kamala Harris's track record. Like they're literally trying to present her as she's some sort of new hot candidate. Like no, like it's so easy to just say, hey, you were like literally there, lying in our face, saying that Joe Biden wasn't senile, probably running things from behind the scenes for this whole candidacy. Like I don't know.
I doubt it was her. I don't think she's that competent.
Yeah, she's not smart enough.
From
Yeah.
everything we know, like she was sucking off someone else.
some some bigger, more powerful donor. But who would want that too? If you had like millions of dollars, like why would you be like, oh yeah, I want that Kamala Harris head? Like, I kind of don't get it. And even in like the old pictures of her with those other people she was clearly sucking off, like, couldn't you find another ambitious woman who was hotter? Because I'll say this controversially, young Hillary, yes.
Yeah, but most really,
Kamala,
well, I wouldn't go that far.
what?
I
No,
would,
I don't
no, I
know.
would.
No, really?
Young Hillary kind of looks like my mom, so it's like no
Oh,
way.
I would
okay.
assume she did most of her work in like the early career just to get in, and afterwards she kind
Yep.
of
And then
stopped.
she rose just by being very cooperative with everything. She
Yeah.
doesn't stand out, doesn't rock the boat. She just does whatever she's told.
Okay.
I mean, think
That's
about it.
fair.
It's a perfect position for whoever's running things behind the scenes. Like you've got a whole collection of candidates and politicians who will just do what you tell them, and they, you don't have to be in the public eye. You can just run things behind the scenes, and your little army of good little boys and girls will just come out and do whatever you want.
Yeah. It was probably
I'll,
the case that she was. You see, like the movie Avatar, you know, like the guy who was sent to conquer Pandora. Like
Oh,
she
that business
was,
guy, yeah, yeah.
yeah, she was smart enough to know what she's doing, but like she was not smart enough to get any ideas.
This is VP Tim Walz. They're really good at this.
Signing a bill into law that requires schools to stock tampons in boys' bathrooms. Or weirder than signing legislation allowing.
Yeah, this is not gonna work, man. It's not working. You're a gross loser. You are a gross loser. This is not gonna work. It's not gonna work at all, man. It's not gonna work.
Now come.
It's a stupid issue to try to hammer on, honestly. Like, nobody cares about tampons in school.
it's
I mean, I
not
would
even
have-
worth it to respond to
I
that.
think that's
would
why
have-
I think that's why they picked him, is because he's so unattackable. Because the only thing you can attack him on is stuff that's going to sound lame.
Yeah.
Because it's just
I mean,
fucking lame.
I heard he was like still pro BLM
Oh, absolutely.
even after he like defended the riots even after that. They could,
Yeah,
but I
Like
also
the
feel like
progressive. Yeah.
I feel like the whole like Trump war machine hasn't totally kicked into gear either. Because again, like I think the convention's still in like 3 weeks or something. Like it's still gonna take a while before she's officially chosen. You know? They've had this whole like selection process going on, passing these people by, without actual recourse from any of the voters of the Democratic Party. Like we're seeing this whole song and dance of them just pretending they're already the running mates, even though the rubber has not actually hit the road yet. So
Yeah, honestly, I think the best thing for Team Trump to do right now would be just to shrug their shoulders and say, "We don't know what's going on over there." I mean, wait till after the convention, then you just unload everything you got. But
I think that's what they're planning on doing. I think they're waiting for that because again, none of this is set in stone. She was super unpopular beforehand.
oh,
This
yeah.
whole propaganda campaign we're witnessing now is just to rally her people, and like, you know,
Well, that's why I didn't buy the poll numbers as soon as they announced, like, oh, she's beating Trump in polls. I'm like, what polls? Because the last time she hit a poll, she got less than 1%. She had to drop out of the campaign last time because she didn't have any money and nobody supported her. Nobody donated to her. Nobody cared.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's literally like just overall a terrible,
I mean,
terrible.
even
choice.
Beto O'Rourke got more donations than she did, and he's disgusting.
Beta O'Rourke. Oh man, I remember that guy. Let's keep going. Let's wrap this up.
Kamala wants Walz to enforce those laws on a national scale. Tim Walz, too weird, too radical.
Too weird, too radical. Yeah, he's so weird, dog. Definitely.
I'm not going to get involved in making a choice. What I will say, though, is I've been impressed by Tim Walz's ability not only to communicate to the working people of Minnesota, but to also be an advocate for them. So I like Tim very much, and I wish him the...
Wow, I can't believe how far left is Kamala's VP Tim Walz. Last week, Bernie Sanders specifically named him as his dream choice. I can't believe one of the most consistently popular congresspersons in the United States likes Kamala's VP pick. Surely this is a good angle of attack. It's like, that's amazing. That's amazing. They are so online, dude. Fox News has nothing on Walz.
That still matters. So let's look back at his record. Walz's first executive order as governor was to create a diversity, equity, and inclusion council. He also supported...
No, I can't believe he did that. Oh my God, I hate him.
Open borders.
You know, he talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder factory.
And he pushed socialism.
He's saying that Walz don't do anything to curb immigration. He's right.
Don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person socialism is enough.
Let's look this up. Yeah, most people support the wall.
Especially now after 4 years of Biden administration and the massive waves of illegal immigration that have come in, the huge spike in crime that has accompanied it, and all of that. Yeah, people absolutely do like Walz. And
Hold on. I'm posting this in the chat right now.
All right.
Majority of Americans support a wall.
For the first time? No, I'm not so sure. I mean, back when Trump was president, they did a national poll on border security, and 80% of Americans were in favor of increasing border security. So,
yeah.
But as far as actually building the wall itself, well, then yeah, this is a surprise to me.
Yeah, well, the majority of Americans support building a wall, and also we haven't. You know, a lot of times I feel like we get into sort of defeatism on the right, where people don't acknowledge how far the Overton window has moved on certain issues. We literally saw people waving mass deportation signs at the last what was it, the RNC meeting that Trump was speaking at. So people like even like freaking Democrats at this point are supporting tons of, even though they're still brainwashed, and they have Trump derangement syndrome. There are still tons of people in this country who think we're full. We don't need more people. So this is just complete crap. Anyways, let's keep going.
Another person's neighborliness. Just do the work.
Oh, wait, and there's more.
They're posting his dubs. They're clip chimping him. You can hear the audio cutting mid-word. It doesn't matter. This is weak shit. You got nothing.
Signed an executive order protecting gender-affirming care or surgeries for minors in his state. And in 2020, he was the governor of Minnesota during the George Floyd.
Oh, they just skipped through that. Okay, got it. All right, great. Yeah, it's crazy that they were like, hey, medical decisions should be kept between a doctor and the patient. Wow, I'm so angry. Aren't you angry? No, medical decisions should famously not be kept between a patient and a medical professional who literally has all of the data and knowledge. It should be between a doctor, a patient, and me, random guy on Twitter. I should be making these decisions.
Yes, it
No,
should
it
be
should
making
be
these
between
decisions.
doctor, patient, and parents.
Yeah, this is the other strong
He
man,
signed
too.
a bill that said you're allowed to keep information from the parents. I mean, never mind the fact that he's supporting the mutilation of children, but he's also supporting keeping it secret from parents and doing it without the parents' consent or even knowledge.
Isn't it so crazy how like this is like literally the battleground? Is like we don't want you to be able to cut your kids' balls off.
Yes, please stop slicing body parts off of your children. Please, just stop. That's the line we're on now. It's unbelievable.
Well, let's just talk. How are you guys feeling about this? How are you feeling about all this? Just go ahead.
As far as the vice president pick,
Yeah,
or what Hassan is saying, because
both.
well, what amazes me, I mean, literally, the last sentence we just heard from him, like, oh, isn't it so terrible? It's like, yes, it is terrible. And the fact that you don't recognize what gender affirming care really is just systematic child butchery, just tells me everything I need to know about this guy, Hassan. He will do absolutely anything to advance his cause, and he has no concern for moral or repercussions whatsoever. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pure Marxism is what it is. There's a saying out there, I think it was Peter Hitchens who said it, and he said, when I was a Trotskyist, I would do anything to support the cause, and I had no morals, because I was convinced that I was the morally superior one.
Yeah.
And that's basically what it is. The modern left is pure Marxist in its disposition, and they will do literally anything, even butcher children, if that helps them brainwash them to their side. And they don't care, because as long as they win in the end, it's all fine.
It's all about just attaining power.
Yeah.
And then expanding the state, and literally this just practically a death cult at this point.
It is. And as far as that Minnesota governor guy, he's just as bad as everybody else. Just because he's friendly and he smiles and he poses for a picture with a little baby pig, and oh, doesn't he look like your grandfather if you had a grandfather, which you don't, but don't you wish you did? He's just as bad as all the rest of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's no difference.
It also really disturbs me the fact that he's like that's how that there is a man who looks like that they can use to try and even though I don't think it'll work, to try and pass that off. That there's a guy who looks like he could be your grandfather who's literally inculcated into this. It's disturbing.
I mean, there is nothing to be said that hasn't already been said. Hassan was a tool. He remains a tool. Waltz is a horse cum drinker and a potential pedophile. And Kamal is Kamal. I don't know, like, if there is a worse insult.
Okay.
That's pretty fair. What can you say about Kamala that she hasn't already demonstrated?
Yeah.
I mean, if you paid even the slightest attention to this woman for the past 4 years, you'd be utterly disgusted by her. I mean, for me, it's like, okay, I get your point, but the appearance doesn't even come into it. Just her general demeanor, her personality, the way she talks, like she's just talking down to children at every stage. It's like enough is enough to turn my stomach. Like I don't even have to look at her. I just listen to her speak.
I'm just joshing with that, obviously, but like she literally is like Heron for president. Like she's literally like the like I'm the sort of guy, I never want to count my eggs before they're hatched, but like I literally cannot imagine a future where people vote for this woman. Like she's literally so annoying.
Oh, people will.
Everything that comes out of her mouth is just like, it's the most like repellent, I just don't see how anyone can. I know that leftists are crazy, but like I literally cannot imagine how someone would be like, oh yeah, I'm so excited for this. Like I just can't see it, you know? Like she's just so, and she was not appealing even before all this. She was like, I think I showed in one of my videos. There's that clip of, or that image of people of someone saying that like, oh, Kamala should drop out because that'll improve Biden's chances.
Oh,
And then
yeah,
even before that, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like we've just witnessed this total propaganda campaign and attempt to totally transform her public perception to give her a shot at the presidency. And Hassan saying that Tim Walz is some sort of great choice is just another stroke. It's just another aspect of this broader psyop, if you know what I mean. Like that's really what it's coming down to.
Yeah, it's just
Is like,
propaganda is all it is. Yeah.
yeah, like it's and I don't even know why. Again, I've already said I don't know why I have doubt, but like now more than ever, it is so obvious that Hassan is a propagandist for this. He's definitely being fed lines. He's definitely being fed an angle. Like it's this is totally inorganic, and you even saw people challenging him earlier in this video on Walz's positions on Israel and stuff like that, and he's like making excuses for it. Like this is totally fake. I don't want to count my eggs before they're hatched, but it's gonna collapse. This is all posturing. This is all. I think it is kind of an attempt to scare the right, but honestly, to act like the left is coming from a position of strength and circle the wagons and rally their people to them, and that's it. I don't think they actually have any sort of edge here.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Nobody in the center or the right is looking at this saying, "Oh my God, how terrible." I mean, if I can make a tangential point, or at least a rhetorical point, Hillary Clinton is a very powerful woman. She's very capable. She knows how to play the political game. She has a lot of influence. Okay. I can respect her as an adversary, even as I hate her guts. Kamala Harris is so dumb. She doesn't know how to do anything. Honestly, like I would rather have Hillary than Kamala, and that's saying a lot because I hate Hillary's guts. And Kamala's just so pathetic. Like, how could you not find anyone else in the entire party better? It's amazing.
I know, right? We really are seeing how they pulled out all the stops to make sure that Trump wasn't elected in 2020.
Yeah.
They grabbed all this power. We're seeing them get power hungry, and then now we're seeing the consequences of it. In my opinion, we're seeing them being burnt out.
Yeah. Like, well, all their policies are coming back to bite them.
Yeah. They couldn't sustain.
We meme about Kamala being a diversity hire, but that's exactly what she was. And now the only possible candidate you have for president is a diversity hire who is too incompetent to do anything.
We literally have quotes about Joe Biden saying that he would pick a woman, and then particularly he would look for a black woman. Like, she literally is, by admission, a DEI hire. Like, this is so, and the real question is, like, the only reason the right has to be worried is how many people have they imported into this country who will vote for this regardless? And two, how many people are actually brainwashed into believing this stuff? Which, I mean, I still think we're going to win ultimately, but like, again, they have the entire media on their side. So there is always that lying over us. But like, really, legitimately, I haven't seen a single Harris sign. As I said before, I don't even know what these signs look like. Is the background white? Is the background blue? It's probably not red, but still, like, I don't even know what these signs look like. What does the font look like? She has no organic support.
But no, this whole charade is just a rain dance. They're hoping that if they affirm themselves enough, they will become a popular party. But just as it is with their constituents, it will not work. Hopefully, at least. The problem is that I don't think Trump enjoys the support among the middle that he did last time around, and it is possible that they're just hoping for like a under 50% turnout or some shit. Like they're just hoping that both sides are so demoralized they can get out their immigrants, fix the voting machines, and just bring out their radicals in hope that that carries them over the threshold.
Prince of Poverty, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, just keep that raggedy bitch up out the White House. That's pretty much all I say.
Well said.
Yeah. That's solid.